Good evening, cult members, and welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is attempt 2 to record our Game of Thrones. This is the Game of Thrones series finale, season finale, the
end of all ends.
end of 10 years of awesomeness and probably at least 3 weeks of internet bitching. Because it's going to be awesome.
Right. What will the internet do now?
Star Wars is coming.
Oh, that's true.
And I'm sure they're going to complain about like Stranger Things and Aladdin and and they hired Robert Pattinson to be Batman.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. We're going to do this one a little bit differently than what we've been doing the other episodes, and that's going to be more conversational based and kind of get an idea, more of a conversation than a point by point of what happened in the episodes and that kind of thing.
Right.
It took us to the last one to figure out what the hell we're doing. So let's start off with, how do you feel about this episode overall? The episode, not the season. We can talk about the season later, but the episode itself.
Okay, sorry. I felt it was good.
Okay. The end?
The end. Well, I can't talk about anything else because I can't talk about the season. Somebody said that.
You can mention the season as... Okay, so I think... I really liked this episode. I liked the season as a whole. I liked how this wrapped everything up for this season, for the series and everything, and got some resolutions to stuff that we needed resolutions to, and some stuff that we didn't know we needed resolutions to.
Yeah.
And on a show that is built on excerpting expectations.
Exceeding? No, not exceeding. Sure, it's not excerpting.
It's not excerpting. Not going against the expectations. It did very much that in this episode, and so I was very happy with that.
Right. It definitely tied everything up in a neat little bow.
I have some questions.
Okay.
I have some questions because there's going to be some stuff we'll get into later. Let's start off with the intro. Nothing really changed except for what seems like the gate at King's Landing, the one at the South Gate that Dragon came flying through and blew up. I don't remember if it closes the whole way during the construction on the previous episodes, but this one it didn't quite close the whole way. And then the Lannister lion was gone over the throne.
Right. Yep.
And so...
Because the Lannisters are gone except for Tyrion.
Except for Tyrion. He's the tallest Lannister now. And so...
He is.
That's been like one of the funniest memes is Tyrion smiling with I'm the tallest Lannister now. So bad. The episode does start, though, with Tyrion and Jon and Davos walking through the devastation of the post-battle and them looking at all the burnt bodies and all the dead bodies and a random hurt person with just some burnt pants left on goes walking by. And
it was very reminiscent of, what you like, war movies or, Saving Private Ryan or that kind of thing where there's kind of the walking dead, and the walking wounded. And just bodies and ash and
lots of snowing ash through the first half of the episode, which I thought was really cool.
Which actually goes back to several different people's visions, dreams, whatever, it was snowing in King's Landing, which everybody thought was because of winter coming.
And it's the Night King being there and stuff. And
dead people.
Tyrion's reaction, because the camera follows him most of the time with Jon and Davos in the back. And it's a long tracking shot as they go through. And Tyrion's face through the whole process is just reaffirmation for him that his decision to back Dany was wrong. And just hit the whole way through. You just see on his face that he's like, I don't believe she did this, and I can't be this. I can't be with her anymore or anything, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They finally end at the mom and the little girl who Arya was trying to save. And and they had a moment of all kind of looking at each other like, I don't believe this has happened. And Tyrion's like, I'm going to go I'm gonna go do something. He doesn't say what he's gonna go do.
No.
And John's trying to give him like backup.
Yeah.
And Tyrion's like, I have to go do this on my own, essentially.
Yeah.
And I really thought he was going to Dany to pretty much tell her off, and that doesn't happen until later.
Right. He's got to go see what happened, right? To Cersei and Jaime, and see if they actually got out.
I really appreciate that. That's where he went, and confirmation that I think he already knew that they didn't get out.
Yeah.
But him finding their bodies in the rubble, starting off with the golden hand, which was a nice touch. That was the first thing that he found.
Yeah.
And that they were wrapped in each other's arms.
Right. Yep.
Which is what Jaime, he wants to die in the arms of the woman he loves, and that's why he went back to King's Landing, and that's why he went to Cersei, is because he still loved her, and that was always been an issue. But we can have philosophical debates about why he actually went back and everything. But Tyrion's confirmation, his reaction, I think just solidifies his decision to pretty much tell Dany off when he finally goes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It might have definitely been different if he had gotten down there and seen that they'd made it out.
Right.
He might, I mean, as beat up as he was over what she did to the people of King's Landing, he might not have gone over the edge with that.
Yeah. Jon and Davos come across this group of Unsullied who have Lannister prisoners of war.
Lannister
soldiers, prisoners, and Grey Worm says you're sentenced to death, and Jon walks up and tries to stop him and grabs his arm. And there's the North who are following Jon are there with Davos, and then the Unsullied are there, and it looks like there's going to be a full-out riot in the streets between the two of them.
Right, going to be another fight.
And Jon was like, "Who are you taking your orders from?" And he said, "My queen." My queen said, "No one who follows Cersei can live."
Right.
Which is confirmation for those of us from the last episode who questioned that whole exchange when Dany tells Grey Worm, "You'll know what to do. You'll know when." And, And they had their conversation.
Right. So potentially she told him that originally. They haven't hooked back up and confabbed since the great burning.
Because they had the Lannister army in the last episode who threw down their arms, and then he still attacked them.
Right.
So that was confirmation of what we all thought was actually what happened, and
that she basically told him, "Don't take prisoners." So even though they laid down their swords, he killed them anyway.
We get Arya walking around trying to leave the city or she walks into the Red Keep, and the Unsullied are there and the Dothraki are there, and she sees Jon walking, and he starts walking up the steps.
Right.
And so the last episode had her leaving on a pale horse.
Yeah.
And so everybody was thinking that she was going to be, going after Dany, and maybe she was.
Right.
But she was walking up, so I'm sure people are going to complain that she wasn't on the horse anymore. She was leaving. And
I think people read a little more into that than there was.
Yeah.
They, she's one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, because Death is the one that rides on the pale horse.
Yeah.
And no, she was just trying to get the F out.
Yeah. And I think once, at least it seems like that once everything kind of ended, everybody formed at the Red Keep in formation, and everybody was there. So might as well have her go there. Jon goes up the steps, and he gets to the crest of the steps, and Grey Worm's standing there in protection for Dany, and he gets to the top of and the camera follows him up the top of the steps, and Dany is there in all black, and Drogon's wings spread out or behind her, so it looks like she's the Angel of Death.
Right.
Is what she
that
looks
was
like.
Super cool.
Which is a great shot.
Yeah.
And she was the Angel of Death. She was from on high and burning everybody and killing everybody.
Yep.
In that point, it's John kind of looks at Grey Worm like, I still don't believe you were doing this. And he looks at Dany, and he kind of takes his place by her side, like behind her off to her side.
Yep, off in the back.
And she walks out and gives this rousing speech about how, I freed you, and you came with me, and we've freed those that were suppressed by the tyranny of a false queen, and now that we've freed Westeros, we can go to the rest of the world and free the rest of the world from tyranny of unjust leadership.
And she called out several of the remaining kingdoms,
right?
Which, she said she freed King's Landing. Well,
freed Cody Fingers.
Yeah, I don't know how free the people feel like they are now, but and then she called out, the North and several of the other kingdoms, which kind of makes you feel like she was gonna go free Cody Fingers them too. So she was just gonna ride around the countryside burning everyone
until they are freed or follow her blindly,
right.
Or whatever.
It's still, I don't.
We're here to free you by putting, enslaving you.
Killing. Killing. I don't understand what her grand plan was. So if you kill everybody, then
that's a historical reference to a lot of different conquerors through time who would just go in and conquer a village and just burn it to the ground and take whatever they wanted from that village and then moving on to the next one. The Romans did it, the Goths did it, the Germans did it, like everybody did it.
They had, it was her and a bunch of guys.
Right.
How are they going to repopulate the kingdoms?
I don't know. They'll figure it out. She gives this rousing speech. Tyrion walks up, stands next to her. Once she gets done, she kind of looks at him and she makes the point of saying, "You freed your brother," and he said, "You burnt the city to the ground." And he takes his hand badge off and throws it down the stairs.
Yep.
Pretty much sealing his fate.
Yes. Well, and Tyrion grew some balls.
Well, he finally realized that Varys was right all along.
Yeah.
And Jon is still Team Dany all through this point too, and it's and just the idea that Tyrion, no matter what the consequences from here on out are going to be to him, he's willing to accept that death or those consequences or whatever.
Yeah, and they take him off, and then Jon walks up beside her, and she kind of looks at him and smiles and
wanders off. Yeah. Arya all of a sudden appears next to Jon, like she
kind of leading to is Arya gonna sneak up and kill her?
Yeah, they kind of and Arya is the one who kind of talks. Jon is the first one to kind of talk to Jon and say, "Are you really still backing her? Are you really going to go be with her? Because I've seen what killers are, and she looks like a killer." And makes a point of kind of saying, she's going to kill you at some point in time.
Right.
That's how I took that.
And Tyrion told him too.
Yeah.
You are the only other claim to the throne. She's going to kill you.
Yeah. Or Grey Worm's going to kill you and everything.
But no, she's our queen. She's our queen. She's our queen. I think I actually yelled at the TV.
Right.
Are you going to keep, believing this? Or are you just going to keep saying this over and over?
Jon goes and sees Tyrion, and I think this is probably the most important scene this episode and probably maybe all season. And Tyrion spends the entire time trying to tell Jon that you're the only one that can get close enough to Dany and kill her.
Right.
And she has to be killed. She will not be stopped. You have to do it.
Yeah.
And it has to come from your hand, because if now you will be the rightful heir with no context. Words are hard. No contest.
Right.
And Jon the whole time is still like, she's my queen, she's our queen, and everything. It's like, are you freaking kidding me?
Well, and I wanted to point out, because this scene is very reminiscent of when Jaime came and freed Tyrion after he killed his father, and I think that Tyrion even said the same thing that he said to Jaime
when Jon walks in.
Did you bring any wine? Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, Jon didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear what...
He actually goes to leave, and finally Tyrion gets to him and says, do you think your sisters will bend the knee?
Yeah.
And Jon, like, you could see the expression in his face. It's a really good piece of acting between the two of them, that he actually stops. Jon stops and turns and looks at Tyrion, and Tyrion pleadingly in his face, like, they're not going to bend the knee, and they're not going to be able to stop her. You're the one that has to do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's that point where Jon finally starts to have the questions of doubt. As soon as his sisters were in jeopardy, in obvious jeopardy, that's when it seemed like a click.
Maybe, but they did not... he didn't show it on his face. You didn't know.
Right.
I mean, you still at that point thought... And then when he shows up at the throne room, what's left of the throne room,
right.
You think he's still Team Dany.
Still Team Dany. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that happens in this. Tyrion calls Jon the shield of the people, like he was with the Night's Watch. Jon talks about Master Aemon, saying love is the death of duty, talking about his love for Dany, and then Tyrion says how much he loves Dany, maybe not in the same way that Jon does, but loves her enough to think that she was the rightful heir. So he talks Jon into at least having a thought in his head about doing it. And Jon walks to the Red Keep, and Drogon is protecting the entrance to the keep. Mm-hmm. Kind of hidden in the snow, the ash of everything.
Yeah, he looks like rubble, and then he stands up.
He stands up, he looks at Jon, he's like, oh, it's you, and kind of lets him in.
Yep.
And Dany is in the throne room like her vision.
Right.
It's rubble, there's ash everywhere. She walks up to the throne, she touches it, she's got that giddy look in her face.
But she doesn't sit in it.
But she doesn't sit in
it. It. Yeah.
And Jon walks in behind her, and they have an exchange about Jon really, really, really is questioning everything that Dany is doing, and he questions her directly, like, how could you do what you did?
Yeah.
And her saying we can't hide behind the innocence. That's what tyranny does, is hide behind small. What is it? Little mercies.
Right.
And innocence, the innocent stuff like that. We have to prove that we're rightful rulers by eliminating that thought process.
Right.
Which is just messed up.
Right. It makes her exactly like the Lannisters.
And her father and every...
So the wheel that she was supposed to be breaking, she's not. Because it's the exact same thing with a different face.
Right. And it's again a historical reference of all tyrants throughout time is you can believe in whatever you want to believe in, but you have to believe in me.
Right.
And so that was kind of her going through the whole thing, and they keep getting closer and closer and closer, and Jon embraces her, and it looks like Jon is, even though he questions her, it looks like Jon is going to be on her side and be with her and everything. And they kiss and they embrace, and then he stabs her in the freaking heart. Like, so subtle.
Yeah.
And just like the sheer look of surprise on her face, and just...
Yeah, and even in the when it very first happened, because they're holding each other, you're not sure who stabbed who.
Right.
I mean, you can hear it, so you know something happened, but you're not sure which one did it.
It was a good long pause of looking into each other's eyes, and I was just like, I don't believe he did it, and I didn't even think about that she's the one that could have done it to him.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes sense that it was him doing it to her.
But it would.
But it could have make the other. Yeah, especially after the previous scene and stuff.
Yeah.
He kind of gently lays her body down, and in the background you see Drogon flying around, and he comes in to the room, and Jon kind of backs up away from the body.
Yeah.
And he walks over and kind of bumps Dany a couple times, like trying to get her to stand up. And Drogon just yells like this scream of agony, and just screams out. And he pulls back like he's got a fireball, and he starts to fireball over Jon's shoulder. And Jon never stood down. He like, okay, this is what I've done.
I'm gonna take my penance. I'm gonna do to me what you're gonna do to me.
Yeah. So he stands there. He doesn't back up, and he fires over his shoulder towards the Iron Throne, but doesn't really hit anything but the stones and everything around it.
Yeah.
And then he comes back and he takes a deep breath again, and he looks at Jon, and he goes to fire again, and he fires right at the throne and burns and melts the throne.
Yep.
To sully.
What?
What is it they call when they melt metal? It's down to, it's not ash, but it's burnt to cinder. It's burnt to molten sully. It's something like that. I don't know. It's been a long weekend. But they destroy the Iron Throne, which is one of the things that everybody's been saying. Who's going to be on the Iron Throne?
Right.
Well, no one's going to be on the Iron Throne. So if you had that in your pool, congratulations, you won. Which makes complete sense.
And they've been saying over the last couple weeks, when people have been complaining that the Night King, this big bad, ended 3 episodes before the end of the series. It's not the game of the Night King Winter. It's the Game of Thrones, and now the throne is gone.
The throne is completely gone, and it's gone. Jon's standing there. Dany's dead body's sitting there. Drogon picks up Dany's dead body and flies off.
Yep. And
they go to black.
Right.
For like 3 or 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And we're like, is that how they're going to end this show? I'm like, if that's where they ended the show, I've been way happy. Like I would have been like Sopranos level of awesome. They burnt the throne. Dany's dead.
No, people really would have had.
People really would have been pissed.
Problem with that.
They come back from being blacked out, and it's on Tyrion, who's laying on the floor, and his beard is longer, and he's obviously been in prison for a while. The Unsullied show up with Grey Worm, and they walk him out like he's going to his execution, except they go to the Dragon Pit.
Yeah.
And in the Dragon Pit is all the lords and ladies of the 7 kingdoms in Westeros.
Right. And
Arya and Bran and Brianna and Sansa, and like Sam's there,
they're all the heads of all those households, because like Sam, the Tullys
are all, he's like the only one left.
Yeah.
And they have they have a confab with everybody, and in this discussion, Tyrion is like, can I speak? And Grey Worm's like, you've spoken enough, and you're part of the reason why our queen is dead, and we
demand justice.
Yeah, the Unsullied want justice, and the Dothraki want justice for the death of their queen. And he finally gets to a point where he's like, and they're like, it's not your, he says to Grey Worm, it's not your decision, lords and ladies, it's not your decision either. It is the crown's decision, the king and or queen. And one of them says, well, we don't have one. And he's like, well, then you guys need to figure it out.
Kind of need to remedy that. And then Sam is like, he's the voice of reason.
Right.
He's like, let's have a democracy, and the little people should be able to choose. And they all go,
what, does my dog get a vote? Does my horse get a vote? And so Tyrion says, no, we should pick somebody who's here. And he gives this big old long speech, and in that speech he talks about, we need somebody who understands the people, who can be the story of king,
right,
and as respected by everyone, all the lords and ladies and the people around us, and he looks at Bran and says, Bran, the broken should be king. Mm-hmm. And Sansa's like, are you nuts? He doesn't want it. He can't even have children. And Tyrion's like, that's the point.
Right.
We're not.
It shouldn't be a dynasty anymore. It should be your king or queen until you die, and then a new one is chosen.
Yeah, and they should come back when that time is done, and we come back at this point and have a meeting of all the lords again, and we have the discussion of who should be king then. We're going to go to break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to finish the discussion about this episode and then the season as a whole and stuff. And so we'll be right back after these messages. Hello, cult members. Like what you've heard on this podcast? Then please subscribe and follow us here. You can also find us on Facebook at the Pop Culture Cult. We're on Instagram at PopCultureCult1, and we're on Twitter at Pop_Cult1. We're also on YouTube at PopCultureCult and on the Stardust app under PopCultureCult. Please help us by liking, following, and subscribing to everything we have. This helps us build a bigger and better cult of pop culture. And we're back. I do that every time. I need to work on the whole timing of everything. So we get all the lords and ladies of the 7 kingdoms in this meeting, and they start going through and saying, I want Bran as king. I want Bran. They all say, I. And they get all the way around.
Wait. You missed like the best part. Because Sansa says, Bran doesn't want it. And he's like, why do you think I came?
Oh, that's true. Why did you think I came all this way? And it's like he knew. He freaking knew.
Well, of course he knew. He knows everything. He knows everything that happened, is happening, and will happen.
And everyone says I except Sansa.
Yep.
And there's a long pause, and Tyrion kind of looks at her like, "What are you doing, see I?" And she kind of collects her thoughts, and you could kind of see it in her face, like she wanted it, like she wanted to be the queen of the 7 kingdoms. But she doesn't overreact and have a hissy fit. She turns to her brother and says, "I love you, but the North will stay independent, like we always should have been, because the North had the most people die in the war against the undead, and we came down here and we fought against a war that we didn't want to be a part of.
Right.
And we've paid the highest price. We want to stay an independent kingdom."
Yeah.
And Bran accepts it because he's a Stark. And so they introduce Bran the Unbroken, first of his name, king of the 6 kingdoms.
Yep.
And all hail the king, and everybody stands, and yay, we have a new king.
If only it was that easy.
If only it was that easy. Although Grey Worm the whole time was like, I don't think this is just because, well, let me back up. In that process, Bran makes Tyrion his hand.
Yep.
And Tyrion's like, I've done this job. I've screwed it up so bad. We shouldn't be here. And Grey Worm's like, no, he shouldn't be Han. It's bad. It's bad.
We need justice.
Yeah.
He needs to pay for, his sins. I mean, I don't know that I would say crimes, but his,
poor decisions.
His poor decisions. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bran's like, he's going to spend the rest of his life fixing everything that he has broken.
Yeah.
And that is his punishment.
That is his punishment, that he's stuck doing this job for the rest of his life.
Yeah. And then, so now they still have Jon. Jon has been imprisoned for killing Dany, because back when that happened, I'm like, but wait, you have a whole army of Unsullied and Dothraki to get through. How's that going to work? So they apparently imprisoned him. And was it Bran that says, no, it was Tyrion said, send him
to the wall.
Yeah. And so then they go down and tell him,
hey,
right?
you're going to the wall.
And he's like, you're going to the Night's Watch, and he's like, is there really a Night's Watch? Because
is there really a need for the Night Watch?
Yeah.
Too?
What are you watching against? And Tyrion basically tells him, well, as long as there's a need for a place to send, bastards and
criminals and all
stuff, then there'll always be a Night's Watch.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was actually a nice touch too of John like understanding that that's probably the best case scenario for him, even though he had accepted his fate of dying at the hand of whoever because he killed Dany. But he just kind of he didn't fight it too much, but he did question Tyrion, did I make the right decision? And Tyrion's like, you did make the right decision. And he's like, I don't feel like I made the right decision. Do you feel like I did the right decision? And Tyrion's like, I don't know, ask me in 10 years.
Yeah.
Once
maybe we see what all this actually means, then
but that whole back and forth between the two of them and their understanding that it was the right decision for now, and that was one of the things that Tyrion kept doing is kept making right decisions for that point in time, and then something would change and he would lose that whatever, and that's kind of how he got on Dany's bad side or whatever.
Yeah.
So we get they say goodbye, and Tyrion makes a point of saying, we might see each other again. I might need to come up there in a few years and piss off the wall.
The edge of the world.
Edge of the world, like he did before.
So that was a callback to whatever, second episode.
Yeah.
Third episode, whatever, when Jon goes off to the Night's Watch and Tyrion
goes with them. Yeah. We get Jon getting escorted down to the bay. I think it's Blackwater Bay, to get on the boat to go to Night's Watch. As he comes down, he comes across Grey Worm, who's taking on all the Unsullied, and they kind of have a look like there's going to be something. There's a fight I really wish we would have gotten to see there, but they won off. And Grey Worm's second comes up and says, we're all loaded. Where are we going? And Grey Worm said the Isle of Narth, which is where
I think it's Noth.
Noth?
I think it's Naath. Noth.
Noth? Okay. And that's where Melisandre was from.
Right.
And so they're going to go. They're taking all the Unsullied, and they're going to this place and protect them from ever being
enslaved
again, which I'm totally okay with. But it's a nice send off for them, for those who were able to make it through everything.
Yeah.
And they can go. Jon gets a goodbye with Sansa and Arya and Bran. He talks to Sansa, kind of just saying, you're going to be a good queen. And she apologized because the North was losing their king, and Jon's like, no, you're gonna be a good queen. You'll be all right. Gives her a big emotional hug. They're crying. Arya's crying, which was kind of a little shaking for me.
But Jon, they were each other's favorite,
right? So it was a big deal. Jon's like, you can come see me. She's like, I'm not going north. And he's like, where are you going? And she says, I'm going, what is west of Westeros?
Right.
What is off the map?
Right.
And
which is a callback to season 6 when she asked
what's west of Westeros. I think she asked that too before she went to the house of the many-faced god. Like she was going to that, and then she ended up going there. Like she asked,
I think it was about that time that she, where are you going? And she said, I can't remember if it was the Hound that she said that to.
Yeah.
She said, what's west of Westeros? Yeah.
And then he bends the knee to Bran, and Bran, Jon says, I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. And Bran's like, you were exactly where you needed to be.
Right.
When you needed to be there, which is what she kind of told. What's the same thing he told Theon when Theon, every decision you made led you to the point where you needed to be and stuff like that.
Right. Yep.
And so John gets on the boat to leave. We get Brienne going through the Book of Nights, comes to Jaime's entry. She finishes the story, and then she finishes it with the quote, died protecting his queen, which was a nice touch that she still cared enough about him to put positive things about all the different things that he did in his life.
And again, a callback, he had, I think it was before he lost his hand or right after he lost his hand, and they were talking, and he was telling her about the book and how his entry wasn't finished or complete,
hadn't been very
or
long.
whatever.
It was very long and stuff like that.
And kind of
she like finished the page and then turned to the next page and wrote some more.
I think it was right after he lost his hand, because he was kind of like, now what are they going to say about me? I lost my hand. I'm not a knight.
Was it when they were in the bath?
It might have been
in the bath scene.
It might have been.
It's all kind of fuzzy because there's so many episodes.
Broke down and she was holding him and stuff like that. It might have been that scene.
We get Tyrion walking into the room where the hand and all of the masters of different things are all, and there's
have their council,
the high council, something like that. I can't remember what they call it. But there's the chair of the hand. It's got a hand on it, and it's his size, which was kind of nice.
He finally gets the chair that's his size.
His size, it works perfectly. He goes and he sits in it, and he looks at all the other chairs, and they're out of position.
Yeah.
They're all like, like not pushed in right. This is totally my thing. We have a whole bunch of chairs around a conference table in our office, and I'm always going over and fixing them. And so he gets up and he starts putting them all back into place. Now, I took that as he's starting the process of trying to fix everything. And this was the first thing he can do anything about. And so he just goes and he pushes all the...
I thought it would have been funny, and I think I actually said it, that it would have been funny if he'd have grabbed his chair and pulled it all the way down to where Bran was going to sit, because that's what he did the last time he was the hand, and everybody was crowded around Tywin trying to suck up to him, and so he drug his chair, and I thought that would have been
that would have been a nice touch. But I liked that he went and fixed everything, and then they all came in and they all moved them around, and he's like, I just fixed this,
which is true. He will fix things, and people will come along and mess them
all up. Bronn is the master of coin, because he's got Highgarden. He has all the money, so he has Highgarden. Sam is the maester of the group,
of course.
We get Davos is the master of ships. Brienne is the captain of the guard.
Yep.
And we had a couple others that weren't the positions that weren't filled. Bran comes in. They talk about how we need to fill some positions, and then he asks, "Where's Drogon?" And they're all like, "We don't know. He was flying east. The last we knew." He's like, "Well, maybe I can help you with that. Go about your business.
I'm gonna go warg for a while."
And then Sir Podrick walks in and grabs Bran. He's like, "All right, you guys have fun." And Bradrick with his king's gold armor on, and Brienne had the gold armor on too. Wheels him out. So he's got
in the Gold Company now.
Well, not the Gold Company. It's the king's.
Oh yeah.
The King's Legion of. Laurel, I can't. It's something like that. But he is Sir Broderick. Sir Podrick.
Yay.
They have this. Tyrion, Bronn, Davos, Sam, Brienne have this long discussion about where we should work first, and Bronn wants to fix the brothels first, and Sam thinks that they need to fix the sewer systems and the water supply first, and then Davos is like, we need ships to get everything, and Brienne's like, we need ships for military to help and so they, as this whole conversation is going on, they're pulling back away from all of them, and it's very much a scene of them kind of just showing like they're now in their positions, and now this is how
this is
life
the beginning of them moving forward.
And then we get Jon, Arya, and Sansa, and they all get their their goodbyes from the show.
Their farewells.
Jon goes to the wall. Tormund is there. Jon goes with Tormund and the wildlings, and they go north of the wall.
And Ghost.
They have Ghost and Jon have an embrace, so everybody can stop having a hissy fit. That was the whole point of him going north. They were always going to go north. They have Sansa as made queen of the independent north.
Yep.
And the really cool dress
with the weirwood or the godwood
leaves on the sleeves. And Arya is on a boat with the Stark banner as the sail and the Stark wolf head as the mast on the head. And they are off. So everybody's going off in the different directions. They show that spring is springing north of the wall. There's green stuff growing, and the last shot of the series is the wildlings walking back north through the woods
into the woods,
like the first episode started with everybody fleeing south through the woods away from the one Night's Watch running through the woods by himself, and so that was the show, and that was the end, and I we've got 15 minutes to kind of talk about overall, and then I think I like how they wrapped up everything.
Like I said, they wrapped it up in a nice little bow. Everybody kind of got what they wanted. I mean, John's punishment to go north, he was, I think I said this when Tormund and
Ghost
Wolf and Ghost.
See, words are hard.
when they left, I'm like, he's gonna end up back up there with the,
and that's where he wants to be anyways.
Right.
He doesn't want to be Aegon Targaryen. He doesn't want to be, the King of the Seven Kingdoms or 6.5 Kingdoms or even King of the North. He doesn't want to be that.
Wildlings, I mean, he saved them. He's got a connection with them. They've got a connection with him. He can just go live with them and do the thing.
Even when they get north of the wall, the gate closes and he stops and he looks over his shoulder and he looks at the gate, and there's kind of the moment of realization that this is the decision he's made, and there's a little bit of a smirk, a little tiny little bit of a smirk, like, this is punishment. Oh yeah, it's totally punishment. You're like, I'm happy.
They were all waiting here for me anyway.
They were waiting anyways, which is a throwback to Tormund in the previous episode when he said goodbye, and John's like, I mean, I'll never see you again, and Tormund's like, I don't know about that.
We're gonna be at the wall.
We'll be at the wall when you're ready. When you're ready. I like Arya going off on her adventures and stuff like that. I like Sansa standing up for the independent North and becoming queen like she always wanted. Let's talk about, though, the big thing that is the two big things, and that's the killing off of Dany. Let's talk about that first. I think that was probably the right decision.
Oh, it was definitely the right decision. Can we talk about the season now?
We can talk about the season. We can talk about the entire show.
So I think it would have had a little more impact if the season had been a little longer. That's been one of the criticisms.
Fair criticisms.
Yes. And probably would have helped with some of the internet fury over
absolutely
kind of how things have panned out. The D&D knew once the books ended, they knew what the ending was. So this ending is what they've known for 3 or 4 seasons, right? So they've had to work backwards, but then this season kind of had to be cut short, I think, because they're getting ready to do the Star Wars stuff.
So I've heard a lot of speculation, but nothing official.
Okay.
HBO gave them 10 episodes.
And
what I know for sure is HBO came in and said, you can have 10 episodes. And they said, no, we want to do it in 6.
Okay.
And part of that, too, was a lot of the actors, as much as they love the show and love being on the show, they want to move on. And they want to be able to move on to the next challenge, the next thing, or whatever.
And that's fair. It's probably good that they haven't said why they cut it. I'm sure that there's somebody who, and it's probably D&D that had to cut it short. I mean, there's, but they didn't say so. The fan hate,
the unfair fan hate, really, I think.
Because of you, the last season sucked, so it's good that they didn't say anything. But I think that Dany's death would have had a little more impact if the whole thing had kind of been stretched out a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think there was a lot more. I think there's a lot more dialogue that could have been added in.
And just build the
tension. I think there's a longer. I think you could spend an entire 3/4 of an episode of Tyrion and Arya and Varys, trying to talk Jon into understanding what Jon needs to do. Because in the grand scheme of things, in the long run, it was always going to have to be Jon. It could never have been Arya. It never could have been Grey Worm, switching allegiances. Yeah. It always had to be Jon.
Well, but there was a lot of, was Varys's little bird, Margaret?
Yeah, trying to poison her?
Martha.
Was Martha, yeah.
Going to poison him. They could have, if they'd have spread it out a little bit longer, they could have built that subversion so that you were like, is she going to get poisoned? Is it going to be Tyrion? Is it going to be Jon? Is it going to be Arya? And you got a little bit of that, but not
the stretched out where you have the super tension like you've had in the past.
Right.
And that's fair. I think them killing her off, we said in our big show episode that we had last Monday that people are pissed off because the hot blonde chick was the big bad the entire time and not the scary Ice King.
Right.
And I think people had a hard time with that. And since then, the internet, those who have been paying attention, have been pointing out, have you watched the show the entire way?
Right. All the people she's killed along the way.
And the way she's done it, and her decision-making process and everything that's been going on, it has made complete sense that she had to die. Now, if she had lived and she had won and been the Mad Queen on the Iron Throne, I would have been okay with that storyline too.
Yeah, but then that leaves it open. This finished it off.
Yeah, this definitely puts I won't say a neat little bow, because there's just too much talk about how it was finished, but I think it does put a bow on the season that you can't, the series as a whole, that you can't come back.
Right.
And
people aren't going to be like, but what happened afterwards?
Right.
Well, there really isn't. Sansa's Queen of the North, and she went on to be Queen of the North, and Arya went off and had adventures,
and Jon went with the wildlings,
and Bran is ruling.
Bran got his castle, and and all that stuff.
Bran's trying to put the 6 kingdoms back together, so I mean it. I think if Dany had lived, it would have been like, well, now I want to see that story. Right.
And I don't think that would have. I don't think that's for me. I don't think that's good storytelling. Now, one of my favorite endings of all times is how Sopranos ended, because they left it open-ended, and left it. Lost was very open-ended too, and
I wouldn't say they left it open-ended. They left it for your interpretation of how it ended.
That's fair. Yeah.
I think if Dany had lived, I don't know that it would have been open for interpretation. It would have been like, oh, well, now there's a whole nother story there that we're not going to get to see.
Yeah. Let's talk about Bran, first of his name. King of the 6 kingdoms.
Bran the broken. Branch the broken.
Branch.
He's a broken branch.
Thanks, New Rockstars. He is now king of the North, or king. He is actually not king of the North. He's king of all 6 kingdoms, and the North is independent. They're Texas. And so the reasoning they gave for Bran to be king, because he is the history, and because he can't sire children, and because he's the most respected of everybody there wouldn't be a lot of infighting because it's him.
He doesn't have an agenda.
Yeah, he has no agenda, and that makes the most sense. However, people are going to have a major hissy fit about this, and there's no other person they could pick. It couldn't have been Sansa. she's got the North.
Right.
And so she's always going to think about the North. So Dorne and
again, it's the same. It closes the story.
Yeah.
If it had been anybody else, then you're like, well, but what about, you know, whatever drama or whatever thing it is,
right,
you know, that goes around that character's, there would be more story. Bran is Bran, and he's gonna, you know,
he's gonna make decisions, and he's gonna make them emotionless, and he's gonna make them for the betterment of everyone.
Well, and he knows everything, right? He knows,
right.
So he will make the right decision because he knows what the outcome is.
And him making Tyrion his hand, Tyrion is going to be, because he's already done the job once, but he also wants to do what's right for the people, because that's what he learned from Varys through Dany, you know, blowing everybody up. He learned that it's the decisions that we need to make are for the people. And so he has done the job before. He's doing it for the people, and he is also a good conduit to the emotion of the people to Bran.
Right.
And so
Bran's like kind of checked out emotionally now.
And so Bran accepting him as his hand, forcing him to be his hand, makes the most sense too. I really am okay with Bran being the king. I really am. But his character and his story arc and everything that's happened in this series is my one thing I have to complain about the entire series, all 70 whatever episodes. His story arc, where he gets thrown out of a window in the first episode, and all the stuff that goes on with Hodor and everything in north of the wall, and him trying to be killed, and the dagger, and then him becoming the three-eyed raven, and knowing all the secrets. And I get from point A to point Z and how we got there and whatever. I just don't think it was worth it for Bran. Everybody else's story I'm really happy with, but Bran's the one story I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, everybody has sacrificed themselves so he could be king, which is what the story was supposed to be. But I don't.
All right. I mean, that's fair. I get it. I mean, life isn't go here, do this, collect $200.
Right.
Go here, do this. You know, it's all over the place, and you know that makes Hodor's dying worth it.
Worth it, yeah. Because he sacrificed himself so Bran could live,
right?
To become the three-eyed raven, to help rule the people,
right? And
fairly rule the people fairly,
right? And Bran has to be the three-eyed raven in order to see the future, so that he can rule correctly and make the correct decisions in the time when they need that to happen the most.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
I mean, I get it. I get it.
I
get your point. But I get why.
I get why they did it too. That's why. Yeah. That's why I preface with I get why they made him king and why they did everything. I did get all that. He's the one storyline I don't care about.
Yeah.
Really, it's what it comes down to. Every time Bran was on TV, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get something to drink. You know. This is what it came down to.
Look, Branch is here.
We will probably have some more talk about Game of Thrones overall, and probably the internet backlash that's going on right now while we're recording.
Right.
But we'll have more and more about this. We will be at Phoenix Comic-Con next weekend.
Fan
Fest Confusion, whatever they're calling it now. And we're seeing Hodor DJ on Sunday. We will be doing some giveaways if you are at the con.
Yep.
Please, if you're on the YouTube channel, we will have a video telling you all the secrets to finding us and giving away
I'm sure
stuff.
we'll post it to our Facebook
and Instagram.
We might be able to record it onto Anchor too. I don't know what we do with it. We haven't talked about that part, but
we'll do something to the podcast feed and whatever.
So it's easy. Come find us, the two of us or Josh, and show us that you've subscribed to the YouTube channel, and you will win a prize.
In the script that I wrote today, we want you to say something along the line of, I'm a member of the Pop Culture Cult, and show us your subscription to the YouTube channel.
Yep.
It's that hard.
Yep.
So if you find us at Comic-Con, let it, come by and say hi. We'll have gifts as long as we have gifts to give away to the fans.
We have a pretty decent stash, and there's some. He keeps trying to hold on to them. Like, no, you have to give these away.
There's some stuff that if we don't give it away, I'm totally putting it on the shelf. So that's our thoughts on the season finale of Game of Thrones. Let us know what you thought. Leave us something in the comments down below. Like, subscribe to all the feeds, social media, all that information's down here. You heard about it in the commercial. That's it. All right, cult members, I hope you enjoyed the show. Let the internet outrage begin. Good night now.